Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Development Project. Tristan, how are you today?
I'm doing really good, man. July's kicked off. It's hot. It's muggy.
It's really hot.
But yeah, it's been a good month so far, and we're over a month back into the gym, so it's just nice to see people more regularly. We've had some people take their vacations. Now they're back more full-time. So yeah, I really just love the vibe, especially we did Murph this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It was an amazing community event. You can actually talk real quick on what you did for that. But yeah, it was really, really good. And although I love the workout, I love what it stands for. A big reason why we chose to push off to 4th of July, just because for us, I just feel it's such an important community thing. And it really showed up and showed out. It was good. So
yeah, so I did video for the workout. I do video for the gym, and I do the video for our podcast. So I just spent all morning filming the athletes, all 3 heats and stuff. I should have the video done by the time this podcast video is put up on YouTube. So if you guys click on the link that's going to pop up right there, you can actually head on over to our YouTube page for the gym and watch that video. I think it's going to be pretty awesome. But I'm looking forward to finishing that and getting it out there for all of our members to be able to see and enjoy. And it's been a blast so far. You saw a preview of
I just
a
saw
part
a
of it,
sneak peek, and it's goy.
Yeah, awesome. So this episode is Intro to Programming Part 2. We did Part 1 about 9 weeks ago at the beginning of May. And what that episode did was pretty much set the stage for background and sort of the foundations for how to program for fitness. If you guys want to listen to that, just scroll back a couple of episodes till you get to episode 2, and you can listen to that and sort of get that understanding of what that basis is for us. So this episode is going to be geared more towards the specifics of how we program for a week in our fitness classes for groups. And then I think we're going to try to dive into some of the development athlete programming and how that layers on top of group fitness and all that kind of stuff. So this is really going to be a lot of Tristan really explaining the depth of what goes into the programming. And I'll try to give as much insight as I can as a coach and sort of try to moderate the rest of the conversation. So we'll just go ahead and start with giving the listeners an explanation of how you approach starting a week of programming. And usually for you, it's on Sundays, right?
It is almost always on Sundays.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. For me, I look at this as almost like a movie, right? Like a 2 or 3 part series. And we're going to do several. We have one on nutrition that we have set up. We'll do a 2 to 3 part series on that too. I can't stress it enough. If you go watch the second part of a movie series and you didn't watch the first, you're going to be pretty confused. But the whole point of a series of this is getting really, really broad. And then every single time we get to a different part, it's more and more and more and more specific. So hopefully this only makes more sense for people as long as you watch the first one. If you didn't watch the first one, this might actually be more confusing for you. So press pause, go watch that one. I'm just kidding. But no, really, where I get started, okay, there's a few things that I really take into consideration. One, where's our geographical location? Okay, we're in the Midwest. Some people might be like, what does that have to do with anything? Well, we don't have mountains. We don't have oceans. We can't go hike. We can't go ski. We can't, go swim. A lot of those things are very CrossFit-like. And when CrossFit first started, granted, it was out in California, so they have just about everything. It had a perfect idea behind it. And it still does. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I am saying that actually some gyms, based on where you are, you should be programming slightly differently. So that's number 1. 2, it's getting what I like to call a pulse of your gym. We have different pulses of gyms just right here in Indianapolis. Are you a competitive gym? Are you a gym that's looking to just increase the longevity of your clients? Are you both, right? And fortunately, we're going to talk about it here in a second. We've become both. Mm-hmm. We were not a competitive gym at first at all. I was very patient with that. Over a year went by and we started to grow into that, which is great, but we let it happen organically. We didn't push that on people. So yeah, it's really understanding where are we as a gym and how should I program? This is why, if anyone's ever wondered, I don't have anything against someone who programs and goes and sells thousands and thousands of, that's great. Ben Bergeron, comp training, awesome job. But here's the thing, Ben really programs for everything. He also lives on the coast. He has more access to more things. And quite frankly, Ben has never stepped foot in my gym. He doesn't know a single person at my gym. Now, he has a very big gym, and I would say of all people, I'm sure some part of his gym reflects any type of gym. But my point is that now we get into the last part. What kind of equipment do you have? What kind of space do you have in your gym? If you're a 1,500 square foot space, you're not going to be able to do even 25% of the stuff that's programmed. It's immediately out the door for you. If you're only putting $20,000 into equipment instead of $100,000, you're not going to have even close to the stuff that someone like a Ben Bergeron comp training would provide you. So those are all things that you need to take into consideration. There's probably more, but they're almost like the nutrition. They're micronutrients. These are my macros, and this is kind of how I dictate or even create a vision of what I want as far as programming is concerned. Now, after that, it's the fun stuff. It's getting up to the whiteboard and just letting your creative juices kind of fly, but you need to have a direction. And for me, this is where it really starts to get into specifics. You have some gyms that are considered strength biased gyms, some that are more CrossFit biased, and that might sound weird to some people, but people actually just follow CrossFit.com, CrossFit HQ, and they'll just take whatever workout of the day that is, and that's great. And then others are kind of a hybrid, I guess, of both. So, and that's what I kind of consider us to be. Of 6 total program days, Monday through Saturday, we have 3 specific strength days. And then the other 3 days are very, very random, very CrossFit-like, right? Sometimes it's gymnastics, sometimes it's more monostructural, or sometimes it's just a longer workout and it's going to have some heavy barbells in it, but not considered a strength. So for me, every single week, I start off with my 3 strengths, and I'm very old school. You have three different types of lifts. You have squats, pulls, and presses. I mean, that's it right there. Now, inside of that, you can have power lifts, you can have Olympic lifts. So that's where I go next. I make sure that we squat every week. I make sure that we do 1 Olympic lift every week. We never do 2 in a strength, only 1. So I kind of split my cycles up either into 8 or 12 week programs, to the point where, if I want to do a snatch one week, we'll clean the next week and we might jerk the next. That would be a 4 cycle, but it would last for 12 weeks. And, that would just be an example. And then maybe one week, we decide to back squat, the next would front squat, next would overhead squat. And then maybe another week we would do a deadlift, a bench press, push press, strict press, those kinds of things. And we'd really start layering those in however I envision that to be. So that's really where I get started. And that's generally for us, that's a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Very not CrossFit like, but that's the point. It's my gym. We are in the Midwest, and that's what I choose to do. It's almost like a personality thing. A lot of people, they do choose gyms based on how you program, when you program, what they like, what they don't like. We're not just so random, pull a workout out of the hat and that's what we're doing that day. So it really is very specific. And I don't think that there's a right or a wrong. It's just what you favor and what is your vision of what you're trying to get across for your clients.
Yeah. And I think that sort of random picking is what CrossFit started out as. It's what a lot of the OG people you'll hear talk about as the hopper method. Basically, you're being able to reach into a hopper and pick out any type of modality and thing and just program that and do it, which is fun sometimes. But when you're trying to get people structure and give them goals to work towards, I think it's nice that we at least we're including every single type of lift at some point within a 2 to 3 week period, and making sure that we're hitting all those points so people don't feel like they're missing something. Right. So I like that.
Yeah, that's well put. After that, it's kind of the gymnastics. All I can really say is it kind of mirrors the weightlifting. Kind of the same idea, right? Very core centric. And then we have presses and pulls. We do have a few leg, like pistols and stuff like that. But for the most part, that's kind of how I layer in our gymnastics. So always doing a pull of some kind, whether it's pull-ups, muscle ups, rope climbs, some lower body ones, I guess, could also be box jumps, stuff like that. But I also put toes to bar, pistols, and burpees. A lot of times that's kind of my core centric workouts. If you've ever done those movements, hopefully you understand it's very core heavy, even a pistol, because of that position that it puts you in. And then obviously presses, anywhere from a push-up to a dip to a handstand push-up. And then I even consider a handstand walk, something that would be considered. And there's others I'm not saying, but hopefully you're getting the idea. And so from there, again, it's just about layering. And now we're starting to get into loadings. We're starting to get into repetitions, time domains, those kinds of things. And this is where, in my opinion, I get very CrossFit-like. So this is what I constantly keep varied. You might think like, oh, I don't want to go to his gym. He only snatches once every 3 weeks. Not at all. So if I snatch in the strength, then the next week when we don't have a strength, we'll snatch in the WOD, right? And I'll make sure that we have that. So if we snatch 1 week in a strength, then we're probably cleaning or jerking sometime in that week, but in a Metcon style. And so that's why we get almost every single movement still going, and we almost never miss anything. What's also interesting is that a lot of people don't understand is 1 week, you really have 4 combinations of snatch. So you can power snatch from the floor, you can squat snatch from the floor, you can also hang power clean from the hang, you can also hang squat clean. So there's really 4 different ways, and like that's how I cycle. If let's say I do want to snatch that week in a Metcon, even though we're snatching in a strength, I will be very opposite. If we're working more on high rep strength snatches, at power snatches, for example, well, then I would create a workout that's a pretty heavy squat snatch in a workout later on in the week. So again, it's very, very different, but that doesn't happen that often, but that would just be another example.
It's like testing fitness within one movement too. You're testing your ability to handle that movement either at heavy loads for shorter periods of time or lighter loads for longer periods of time, and somewhere in between. And you're never focusing on one type of snatch. It's not like you're only doing squat snatch heavy or light, but you're doing like the hangs and you're doing the powers and all that kind of stuff too. So it even the definition of fitness doesn't just extend to the program as a whole, but it extends to the movements individually as well.
Right. After that, which kind of allude into some other things, is odd object conditioning, right? I didn't say any of that stuff. So a lot of people, odd object conditioning is D-balls, sandbags, yokes, handles, farmer's carries, and that's great. And I love all that stuff. That's absolutely at the top of our odd object. But it's also just simply a kettlebell and a dumbbell instead of a barbell. So again, that's another idea, is if we squat snatch in a strength, well, we might just dumbbell snatch in a workout later on that week, get our power, get the mechanics of a snatch, but something very, very different that's going to stimulate the body in a completely different way. I hope all of you can hear that thunder, because that's legit.
Yeah, it is. It's raining outside too.
That is not Caden's stomach, I promise.
I am a little bit hungry. I might need to get some food soon.
But anyway, so odd object conditioning is another thing, and I'll kind of go into that. So doing odd object conditioning is something that I focus on and make sure we at least do once a month, but most of the time I'll try to get it in twice. So it'd basically be an every other week thing. So for example, we didn't do any odd object conditioning from a D-ball, yoke, those kinds of things. We always do dumbbells. That's a focal point in our programming, but we didn't do any of that last week, but we did it the week before. Well, this week we have another odd object conditioning day. So that'll be our twice in the month of doing it. So it's definitely something I still like to do. Another thing that I just choose not to do as much, and again, it's finding the pulse of your members. We have a lot of runners. They run on their own. That's a monostructural movement. That's a single modality. We have some bikers, not a lot, but we have some real people that really want to make an effort of going outside of the gym and getting their miles in. I respect that. And I know that not everyone's doing that, but I know that if I program a 5K one day, 40% of our member base is going to come in. And I know that some people are like, well, you still need to program it sometimes. That's your opinion. So for me, it is about inclusion. It's about community. It is, in a way, not letting my people dictate how I program. But I mean, really, I want people in the gym. And that's what everyone else wants. You want to see your friends. And if I do that too many times too often, and they're skipping out because they're like, well, I can just stay home and do this. Or they might even be like, I could have programmed that, and it's not always about making things complicated, but you just need to find out what's best for you is really what I'm saying. And there's no right or wrong way in my opinion on that. So all I'm saying is single modality pieces, I do it very rarely. They're more tests, if anything else, just to kind of see where we're at with our fitness or with our benchmarks and stuff like that. So that and odd object conditioning, it doesn't happen every single week. I try to get it in the month, but it's not our main focus. From there, where I really like to geek out, and this is very level 1 and level 2. So if you've ever gotten your certification, I think this is the piece that you're going to really like, and that I think you as an individual can really start to teach yourself. But it's the couplets, it's the triplets, and it's the chippers. So this is where, for me, this is what really laid the groundwork for me in becoming who I am and almost creating an identity for myself as me, a programmer. Every programmer has their own identity. We talked about it. We talk about it often. Music, there's a lot of great guitarists out there. They can all play some of the same stuff, but you'll always notice, even in a cover, right? If somebody does the exact same song as someone else, you can be like, oh, I know that that's John because of the lick he just made. He bent the string a little bit. I feel the same way about painting. I feel the same way about dancing, singing, and I feel the same way about programming. You can just tell someone's programming. Oh, that's very Ben Bergeron, like, ooh, that's very Rich, like, you can just see it. And I think that that's what's great, and I think that that's what gets exciting. But anyway, before I get all the way to that, for me, it's that everything still has its base. And for me, I try to always stick to never doing 3 of these things. But basically every week I try to do 2 couplets, 2 triplets, and 1 chipper, something like that. Now, some weeks I do have 2 chippers and I might only have 1 couplet and 2 triplets, blah, 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 blah. You kind of get that. And then Saturday is just always fun. I mean, you'll kind of notice that. If I do feel like, for example, let's say Monday through Friday, I did 1 couplet. Well, maybe on Saturday, I'll do like three AMRAPs, and they'll all be different couplets. That way we're still getting the stimulus of a couplet. Because if anybody out there knows, couplets are the hardest by far, and stuff like that. So those are things that I constantly keep an eye on. I try to never get bias towards a triplet or bias towards a couplet. Then you start getting into such cool, weird, awesome, cool things. And that is, what do my couplets look like? Some people's couplets, for me, if I were to say, oh, I'm biased towards this, it's generally something that's going to get your heart rate super jacked up. So 1 movement. And then the next one's going to be heavy. That's my type of couplet. That has Tristan written all over it. I like to lift heavy weights after doing several burpees. I like to lift heavy weights after doing huge sets of pull-ups or a row or something like that. That's my type of couplet. Triplets, I'm very old-fashioned in this way. I like a monostructural, I like a gymnastics, and I like a weightlifting. I don't like it to be other things, but it doesn't mean that that's the thing that I have to try to keep my eye on. Tristan, don't let this become biased to where you're always doing this. Yeah. Sometimes you need 2 barbells in with a gymnastics, or sometimes your triplet can be all 3 weightlifting. What is it, JT? Man, I mean, some people would look at that and be like, are you on crack? But it's a 21-15-9 of literally handstand push-ups, and dips. I mean, but that's what it's testing. It's testing your pressing endurance, and I love that. I probably don't do that often enough, to be honest. But anyway, there's just so many different cycles that you can do. Chippers, I don't think I have anything super biased towards that. I like more of the same rep. So like 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, you have to pose, as opposed to like a 180, 60, 40. Yeah. Down. I don't like those as much. Nothing against them. I just don't program that as much. So that would kind of be an example there. And then after that, there's time domains. I think that this is actually one of the hardest ones, even for people who are super mindful. And here's the main reason is that, again, we do 4 levels at our gym. We do competitive, fitness, lifestyle, and adaptive. If I write a workout that for example, let's use yesterday's. The example was a 5 to 7 minute stimulus. So again, you'll learn at your level 1 that you should have 1 that's below 8 minutes. You should have 3 that are somewhere between the 8 to 12, maybe 8 to 15. And then you should always have 1 that's well over 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And that's kind of the blueprint. of time domains. Well, if I programmed a workout that was supposed to be 5 to 7 minute stimulus, and even if I set a time cap at 10 minutes, if several people go over that 10 minutes, they never really got their sprint for the week, right? So they're not really building on, for example, type 2 muscle fibers or being explosive or redlining, and all those things. It's like, it's kind of like nutrition. Sometimes we hear things and we're like, ooh, that's bad. Nothing is ever bad or wrong in its context. So like, I'll say it sometimes at the beginning of a WOD. We're redlining today. Make sure that happens. And oh man, I love to see people's faces. They turn white. They're like, oh no. Yeah, no. That's where we need to get to today. That's the point of today's workout.
And I think it's important to tell people what the stimulus is. I feel like I've been to some gyms in the past where they just tell you what the workout is, and then they send you on your way to get your stuff and get going. And they don't even really tell you, like, you need to be picking a weight or a skill or something that fits a level to where you can make it within this time range. I like to use Fran as an example for this type of stuff. Like, there are people out there who can do 95-pound thrusters and can do pull-ups, but in the confines of what Fran is supposed to be, it may take them 8 to 10 minutes to do that. Should they be doing that? In my opinion, probably not. I think you need to be decreasing at least the weight on the barbell so that you're doing the thrusters fast enough and in big enough sets that you can get it done within that 3 to 5 minute time range. So that's sort of the idea that comes to my head when we think about stimulus. Yeah,
that's a great example. In fact, I think I heard Ben Bergeron say, and he makes it real. He goes, pick a weight that you can go unbroken 21 times on. After that, the workout's done its job. Yeah. The 15 and 9 will follow suit. But yeah, you're talking about pull-ups too, which is now we're talking about a skill. Where do we modify that? And again, this is where you should be getting a pulse for your gym. Well, what are the majority of my people? Are they people that need to do jumping pull-ups, or are they just people who need to be doing less?
And it's your
pull-ups?
Responsibility as either an owner or a coach to really learn your athletes too, so that you can adequately advise them on how they should be approaching workouts. If you're just very passive and you have no idea what the capabilities are of the people that are in your class, then what good are you?
You know, sometimes it's like, this is not bragging. In fact, I probably shouldn't be saying this because it's going to come back to bite me in the butt. But like, it's very hard as one of my members to surprise me in a workout. And what I mean by that is I know probably down to 30 seconds exactly what your time is going to be. And I should. I've coached you. Gosh, I was just telling you some of our 1-year anniversaries today. I've coached you 300 times. I better know what you're capable of. I know when people are going to break or when they should break, and all of a sudden they don't break, and I'm like, well, this is going to be a bad workout for them because they should have broke right there. You know, like it's not saying where every person has to break. It's saying I know everybody's capabilities, capacity to where they either should be breaking, or I know you so well that I'm like, to a fault, they're going to break right here. You know, I'll just say some names. Erin Clark, everyone knows. Erin's been with me for forever, but even more so, she's been my partner in crime. 20 plus competitions. I know her literally like the back of my hand from an athlete perspective. Today, it was so funny. She was doing today's workout and had 2 sets of 15 toes to bar every single round. And I mean, I just knew exactly when she was going to come off the bar. I knew she was going to do 10, drop through 5, 10, drop, you know, without even talking to her about it or without even saying anything. And so it's just like, yeah, you just get to know your athletes so well. And, you know, if you don't, then this almost goes back to our good to great coaching. And I don't even remember if we talked about this, but like that would if we left that out, that should be put in. That would be another level of good to great coaching. Get to know your athletes so well to where you know what they should be putting on the bar and what they shouldn't. And I know that's difficult, and I don't want to put every coach, you know, throw them under the bus like that. Because again, like, let's be fair, right? You and Becky probably coach the second most in the gym. But, you know, like Bran, Jern, Missy, like, you know, 6 to 8 times, maybe 10. Like, first of all, Jern never sees our evening people. He's our morning guy, you know, and same for Missy and Bran. They never see our morning people. So I would never expect them to know what an AMer lifts there. They're never going to see them. But, you know, for someone like you, you get to see the next level of all our classes. Because what's interesting is you coach the 5:30, 6:30 a.m. You've coached the 5:30 and 6:30 p.m. But ironically, if you're going to take 2 classes, you generally take either the 9 a.m. or the 4:30.
Yeah, and I have coached every class, I think, except one of the noon classes.
There you go.
At least one time, probably more than a couple of times in my time as a coach.
So just that right there. And again, this is not putting coaches against coaches.
No.
You're just very well versed in our members.
Right.
You know, so like you actually could guess, be like, yeah, I've seen them do this. And even though I only saw them do it once, you could tell based on their intensity, on their level, on their capacity, skill level, all those things probably get a better feel than someone who's never seen them before. Yeah. So now you add an owner who's coached 24/7 for several, like you should, or you're not paying attention. I don't know what you're paying attention to.
I'm interested what you thought my finishing time was going to be for the workout yesterday. So I'll give a preface.
Yeah.
I intentionally went heavier on the workout because my personal goal was to test and see how well I can handle something as heavy as what I picked and try to keep it somewhat close to what we were expecting in the workout. So I'm really interested just to see what you thought based on seeing me pick that specific weight and how you thought I was going to do in that workout.
Yeah, so let's be fair. I actually just assumed you were going to pick a 50. That's really what I thought. And I didn't notice until halfway through your first set of 24 snatches that you did not have a 50. In fact, I still don't know if you had a 60 or a 70. Which
70.
One? Okay, so that really is more fair to you. So yeah, I would have never thought that you would have gone for a 70. So good for you. With a 50, I thought that you were going to nail the stimulus. I really did. I thought that you easily had 6 minute-ish in you, definitely sub 7. And then once I realized, and I didn't know if it was a 60 or a 70, not that it really would have made a difference in the moment, but I was definitely like, I just knew Caden wasn't going to hit the 7 minute stimulus. And were you at like what, 8:57, 9 minutes flat?
8:54.
There you go. So, and that's totally fine. I mean, another thing a lot of people don't know is that you've now started the development athlete yourself. And here recently, I've been very proud of you because you've been trying to, even if it's not the whole workout, you've been trying to select small things. I don't know if I should be saying people's names. I like it, but Kayla Haggerty, another person, like she's been picking just a few things out of the competitive stuff. She doesn't do the whole thing necessarily. But the other day when we did the heavy squat clean workout, she's like, okay, I know that this is a good weight for me on the squat clean, so I'm going to push myself on the wall balls. And she did a heavy wall ball. She did a 20 last week. So it's like, it's those small things where it's like, hey, if I can just chip away and do a few competitive things, before I know it, this is going to really improve me. And I really will be doing competitive more often. Anyway, you've been doing that a lot lately. In fact, I would say probably 50% of the workouts the last 2 weeks, you've been doing competitive level stuff all the way through. So I should have assumed you were going to do that, but I didn't in the moment. So anyway, you know, you hit a 9 minute, that's 2 minutes over. You stuck to what I asked of you with taking fewer breaks inside your sets, but then your breaks going from one movement to the next. So what we call agility, one of our general physical skills, it was not there. And so like that, and I know that you know yourself well enough that you know, like, okay, I did go too heavy. Maybe I should have done a 60 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, you still moved well. Mechanics were never off. So like, that's another thing a lot of people don't realize that we talk about. It's like stimulus is one thing. And if you're going to miss it every once in a while, and it's totally okay. It's when you start missing the technique because you're going too heavy or you're doing competitive. Like you and I, not to make fun, and we're not going to talk about any people. What we talk about closed doors is we're coaches, and that's totally fine. But we have some people we know about. It's not necessarily that the stimulus is always wrong, but sometimes it's their technique. It absolutely drives us batty. And they shouldn't be doing competitive level weight or competitive level skills because their technique's not there. They'll still hit the stimulus.
Yeah.
And then in their eyes, they're like, see, I did exactly what you said. Yeah, but it looks so bad. And then other times, and you are actually this person, and this is why I'm proud of you for picking, but like you've always been a student to like be like, okay, I want to hit the stimulus exactly like Tristan says. To your detriment, sometimes you go too light or too easy.
It's happened before.
And it's happened more times than it hasn't, I bet.
Yeah.
You know, accurate. And so it's just one of those things where I'm like, I'm glad to see that it's okay for you to be like, okay, I can miss the stimulus by a minute or two because enough of those, I will start getting better and improving and stuff like that. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that would be my insight to what I thought yesterday. I really don't remember exactly where we were.
That's good. Yeah, it is. Yeah. We kind of lost the trail a little bit.
Okay.
I feel like what we've talked about up to this point was just kind of all of the different pieces that go into planning out an entire week of programming. So maybe what we can do for our listeners is take maybe this week, if you have it all in your head still, what we've done this week.
I have it right over there on a
whiteboard.
whiteboard.
Yeah, we actually have the whiteboard. So if you need to look at that, we can. But maybe we can talk about maybe not even specifics, but what does this week look like? How did we plan? And we'll just do the class workouts. We won't worry about the development athlete stuff quite yet. But just, what was yesterday, Monday? Today is Tuesday, what we're recording on. And then what does the rest of the week look like from the workouts?
And that's honestly, I don't even know if Caden knows this, but like I always program the class first. I never actually program the development athlete stuff until after, because again, our community is what's most important to me. And it might sound cheesy, but really, I mean, just even in numbers, it's more important because that's what most of our people do. We are so blessed. We're up to 13 or 14 development athletes now, and that's so awesome, and I love it. But we're still over 100 people on our regular CrossFit class programming. So they always come first. And quite frankly, it's even easier to build the development athlete once I've done that. So for this week, let me kind of look side-eyed. So this was a little bit different, but we started percentages again this week. So that first month back from quarantine, I didn't think percentages were wise. It was kind of letting people get acclimated again to lifting barbells, because most people didn't lift barbells over that time. But yeah, we just started very, very generic for the most part. We started with back squats, kind of a 4x5, and then we built up to a heavy 2 on those back squats. So for me, that's considered a heavy day. And then we had a very, very short Metcon. It was for time, 3 rounds for time, descending rep scheme, 24, 16, 8. And like I said, 5 to 7 minutes was in my mind's eye. And then we turn around to what our members have deemed as terrible Tuesdays, and it's the complete opposite. No squatting at all, hardly, and a 30-minute AMRAP. Just a long endurance, gruel it out type of workout, very core-centric focused. And then tomorrow for our strength, we're turning right into a fun little bear complex. So it's kind of our Olympic lifting of the week, because it is a clean and a jerk and stuff like that. And just a little bit different for our members. We actually haven't done a bear complex for quite some time. So pretty fun. And then, trying to look. Oh, yeah. AMRAP 12. So again, let's also go back. So we had a couplet the first day. That was for time. This will be our second couplet of the week, and now it's an AMRAP. So it's very, very different from that. And once we get done doing that bear complex, then we actually turn right around and we do a bear complex in the workout. So AMRAP 12, 3 bear complexes, and then 15 box jumps. So also kind of going back, we did have a box on Monday, but it was a strength.
It was step
ups.
Yeah.
Yep. So now this is our first time this week getting plyometrics. So like, again, that's another big thing that people don't think about. How many times are we doing plyometrics? You and I talked about it a lot over quarantine. We did too many plyometrics because you're just so short. Yeah. You're so short on what you can and cannot do. So that was something that we did too much of, but I do think that plyometrics are very, very important, even outside of sport specific things. Just us as people, which I know that you could geek out about forever if I let you. So that's through 3 days. And then Thursday, this is our odd object day. So we're going to be working with kind of another heavy thing, but it's not squatting. It's more heavy loading on our body. So a little bit different from obviously our heavy back squats, but this is carrying around yokes. This is pulling sleds, pushing sleds. It's really an all body good workout. We're just blessed. We have a lot of cool things. We have logs, we have fat bars, we have farmers handles, not just kettlebells. So this is just an opportunity for our members to just really have some fun and do some different things that you can't do at 90% of CrossFit gyms, or really gyms in general across the world, let alone just here in Indianapolis. Right. So that's a big part for us. And then we go back to our first triplet of the week. So I'm working on some handstand push-ups. So we haven't really, if you can kind of look at the workouts, we haven't had any really major pressing. It's definitely been more lower body and core focused. So now we're going to be working on some pressing endurance. So we have an AMRAP, I think it says, for 9 minutes, 7 handstand push-ups, 15 air squats, just kind of a nice break right back into 7 handstand push-ups, and then finishing off with some double unders. So again, another plyometric movement, but the crux of the workout is the pressing. It's the handstand push-up. Again, it comes around twice in a round. So that's what we're obviously working on. We're not looking to get people sore from air squats. We're not looking to get people, after a day of box jumps, that double under, it's not a big part of the workout, you know? So that's another thing to always keep in mind. If you are going to be doing something back to back, it shouldn't be the primary focus of that next day's workout. I could do air squats today if we wanted to, but it shouldn't have been a huge part of the workout then if we just back squatted heavy.
Yeah.
That's just something to be mindful of for your athletes. And again, we can get into an argument about what CrossFit is. Well, it should be varied. Sometimes you should, and absolutely, sometimes you should squat back-to-back days. It's just a way to stimulate the body. And I could definitely get on board with that, but it definitely shouldn't be something you're doing all the time. So just kind of, again, it's an insight to what I programmed this week. Ever since we came back, trying to kind of mold to what COVID's been asking of us in our guidelines. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, we used to do partner workouts on Fridays and Saturdays. So we took Fridays away and kind of introduced hero workouts for people. And it's really been accepted pretty positively. And by positively, I mean very sarcastic, negative comments. But no, I think people really have enjoyed it. So again, tomorrow, Hanson, 5 rounds for time, 30 kettlebell swings, 30 burpees, 30 GHG sit-ups. So it's actually funny because I'm a huge advocate for burpees. I think that if you can do burpees for the rest of your life, you're going to be a pretty awesome, cool human being.
As the thunder
rolls, yeah. And so I really I stand fast by that. A lot of my members give me a hard time, but we actually generally do burpees 2 to 3 times a week. So it's actually crazy that that's the first time we're doing burpees in the week. But again, after doing some air squats, after doing a heavy complex of a bear complex on Wednesday, you know, some people's legs are definitely going to be tired. So again, kind of back to almost a full body, but more of a core centric day, since that's what we're having on Tuesday. That's plenty of time in between to work on those things. And quite frankly, GHG sit-ups are not something that we do often in class. Maybe once, well, maybe twice, probably once a month at most. So that'll be good for a lot of people to work on. And then Saturday, I haven't quite finished up yet, but it's just going to be, again, it's kind of a fun controlled hodgepodge. But right now, we have thrusters, pull-ups, a C2 bike. I'm actually going to wait on the weather because right now it says it's thunderstorming. We didn't get to run this week because of all the thunderstorms. So if it's a nice day, I mean, we're going to run. Yeah, I don't go a week without running in nice weather.
And that's usually our team of 3, team of 4 type workout days. I'm curious, how long do you think you are going, let's say after the restrictions get lifted, are you going to go back to the partner Fridays, or do you foresee maybe even once a month doing hero workouts on Fridays? Here's
just an idea I floated around, so don't hold me to it, but there's actually some really good partner hero WODs out there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there really are some. I mean, a good handful, 10 to 15. So I think what I might do is keep the idea of hero WODs, but kind of every other. And then obviously I did it last week or 2 weeks ago, you know, adaptive or lifestyle, that could be your option, is to do it with a partner. But yeah, kind of keeping the idea of the hero workouts. I really like it. I think people like it. I think they like that extra day. It's kind of like our Tuesdays, just that extra day to like, man, this is more of a mental grind than it is a physical grind. So I think that's good. But yeah, maybe every other Friday doing like a partner hero WOD, and then that other Friday doing an individual type of hero WOD would be cool.
Cool. I like that. Well,
outside of that, I'll go ahead and just dive into the development athlete if that's where you kind of want to go with this.
That's where I was headed.
So, I mean, once I program all of that, the development athlete, it is really easy to kind of start filling things in, because what you're trying to do is not have any holes. And again, this is where I could actually see more gyms doing a comp training like this, because I feel like a lot of big programmers out there, CompTrain, Invictus, you know, stuff like that. That's exactly what they're after. They're about trying to introduce you to as many things as they can in a week. But my argument still comes, even with my 12 to 14 development athletes, I need to find a pulse. If we all can't do a ring muscle up, which that's not true, but if we all can't do a ring muscle up, well, we're going to be working on that twice a week then. Like, we need to really be working on that. I don't want to work on that just once a week. And not to mention, if you're assuming we have ring muscle ups, then you're not giving a build up, or what am I trying to say?
Like a progression.
A progression. Thank you. Yeah, a progression to it. So I need to make that up for my members what's going to best progress them to getting their ring muscle ups. So that's a whole nother thing. So for me, this is a lot of fun too. I change it up from now and again, but basically Mondays we always snatch. So if that's what the class is doing, we snatch with the class. And then we'll be doing maybe a back squat still that day, but development athlete. So that's kind of the thing, is like, it's always predicated based on what the class is doing. Because for those of you who don't know, again, I don't like the idea of creating a competitive group and then not having them be a part of the class or the community. That's not what I'm about. So it might not even be enough, but I mandate that if you want to be a part of the development athlete and you're a part of our community, you're not at another gym doing our programming, you have to go to 3 classes a week minimum. And I think that's pretty fair. That's what I ask of my coaches. So I feel like if you want this extra programming in a way, whether you're a silent, lead by example, or boisterous one, I don't care. You're a leader now. Yeah. You're choosing to be a leader. You're out there, and you need to lead by example by showing up to classes, still conversing, socializing with our members, stuff like that.
Because the development athlete is like that thing that fills in the holes of like the sustenance of the programming is the class workouts, the stuff that you do throughout the week. And then the development athlete stuff is for people who want to pay more to add in those little extra pieces so you can, like you said before, fill in the holes. But if you're just doing the development athlete stuff and you're never going to any of the class workouts, you're missing a huge chunk of fitness and what we're actually trying to get out of people. And so we don't have any yet, but should we have people that want to start that program who don't go to our gym, we would hope that they would be doing their class workouts at their own gym, or if they're doing their own thing in their garage, maybe start to add in some of that extra stuff, and maybe even, I don't even know what that would look like. But the whole point is that we shouldn't be just doing the extra stuff. We need to be doing that on top of actual class workouts that are programmed to create fitness.
Well, I'm really glad you said that, Caden, because here's just something that kind of like, boom, blew up in my mind. It's people, they start CrossFit, and let's just quote somebody and say like, hey, I really want to get pull-ups. Well, this is really going to hurt your feelings. I'm not here to get you pull-ups. They'll come eventually, but I'm not here to get you pull-ups in the amount of time that you want to get pull-ups. I'm here to help you, and we will progress this over time. But our regular classes, let's say we do pull-ups every 2 weeks. For a lot of people, you're not going to get pull-ups for a few months then. Others, now my next question is, okay, you have all the strength required. You have all the body awareness required. Now you weigh too much. And I'm going to probably get blasted for even saying that. But the truth is like, what are you eating?
It's physics.
Are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to help yourself outside of the gym? Are you assuming that just by being here, that's going to get you pull-ups? Because that doesn't work like that.
We're trying to get you healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Get you fit.
And that is our job. Yeah. Now, the development athlete, I'm assuming you already have all that stuff dialed in. And even if you don't have it dialed in perfectly, like you have it dialed in well enough to where now as a development athlete, okay, Tristan's programming pull-ups every week to some capacity, whether they're strict pull-ups, chest to bar. It will progress me as long as I'm there doing it and I'm still being healthy and taking care of my body outside the gym. We handstand push-up every week, whether it's strict, deficit, whatever. Handstand walk, we do it. GHG sit-ups, I'm a lot like Rich. We don't do any less than 100 in any given week. Sometimes we get up to 150, 200. It's a huge part of my programming. It's how that's got Tristan's programming written all over it. And that's just some of the gymnastics stuff. We don't go a week without really doing everything, every single part of something. It's
a monsoon.
Yeah, Caden is eyeballing outside.
Yeah, for those of you watching us on YouTube, I'm looking out the window just beyond the camera, and
he's looking at you.
It's like Hurricane Katrina out there.
It is. So anyway, that's kind of the development athlete. So again, I make sure that we back squat and snatch every single Monday, regardless of what the class is doing. We always have some kind of engine piece, monostructural, and then we're starting to build back into it because it was just too much volume to add in. But now we will be having a gymnastics piece, which generally Monday and Wednesday, they're the exact same, but just one's a push day and one's a pull day. So for example, this week we did a push today. Wednesday is going to be a pull gymnastics with a different engine piece, and then we do our clean and jerks on that Wednesday.
Okay.
So that's kind of what our Monday and Wednesdays always look like. Tuesday is more about long body armor, odd object conditioning. We do a lot of that on Tuesdays. Thursdays are off. Fridays are kind of again, not picking up the pieces, not that I don't have an idea of what I want, but it's more maybe of our power lifts, accessory lifts, anything that I feel like we missed. So, maybe it's an extra time to get an extra skill in, like a ring muscle up or handstand walk, if I didn't feel like I put that in earlier on in the week, and stuff like that. And then a lot of core stuff. That's kind of what Tuesday's for, but it's an odd object core. And then Friday's almost more like a bodybuilding, if you even want to call it that, more like building our core more in a bodybuilding way, like very specific muscle groups, as opposed to the very functional muscle groups of an odd object day, if that kind of makes sense. So that's kind of where we are right now. It just keeps growing. It keeps getting different. I mean, COVID really put a wrench in things. We had gone 3 straight months. I was ready to start a new cycle, and then we got kicked back. We came back. Everybody lost their fitness, unfortunately, for the most part. We got 6 new people, which is so awesome. And I kind of started us over.
Yeah.
But I mean, we were all unfit again. So it's okay to start over and build back up. But yeah, these next 2 months will very much so look like January, February, and March. And then once we're done with those 3 months, we'll start kind of something new and just keep stimulating the body, keep building people up and getting those PRs and firsts and all those cool things. So.
And that's the fun of fitness right there. Yep. I love it. Is there anything else that you want to add?
I feel like we hit it all. I mean, for the most part, I don't think that there was anything else that, really needed to be said. I think the next one, which we haven't really talked about, so I hate to even say it, but I think the next one's kind of competition and that kind of programming, kind of we did a little bit, but a true insight into like a day of like actually holding a competition like Fittest in the fall. That kind of programming. How do you take it to the next level? How do you modify? How do you dictate what's appropriate for, again, the people around you, who you're trying to attract to your gym, and those kinds of things. So that's a whole nother episode, though.
All right. Well, mark it, folks. We're going to be doing an Intro to Programming Part 3 at some point. Could be 4 weeks from now. Could be 9 weeks from now. Who knows? But this is more or less for us, too. So we're going to do that. We're going to make an episode on competition programming and kind of have that be the trifecta on this series of programming stuff. So thank you guys for listening to this week's episode. As always, please make sure to like us on Instagram, on Facebook. Give us a 5-star rating if you're on iTunes, and we will catch you guys in the next one.